Hello and welcome to the Level Up Podcast. I'm your co-host, Cruz Costilla. As John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. I will be interviewing CEOs, executive team members, and other leaders that are respected in the marketplace so that you can learn from their real-life experiences. Our goal is to help you level up and, more importantly, raise your leadership lid with practical action items that will help you make an even greater impact on the people you lead and the organizations you steward. If you're looking to level up your influence, then this is the podcast for you. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the show. Cool. Thanks, Eliot, for coming out here and being a part of our show, Level Up Leadership Podcast. My name is Cruz Costilla. I'm the co-host of this podcast, and we have here Eliot Garza, who is the owner and sales director of Media Digital Source. Thank you again, Eliot, for coming on our show.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
When we get started, I just want to kind of ask you the first question of just, I guess you can maybe tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of when you first started, becoming like a leader in your life.
Well, when to be a leader, you got to be led. So as far as my life story, I've just surrounded myself with some really strong individuals who are, I would say business owners, leaders, upper management as well, and rightfully so. You want to be around people who are going to educate you. You don't want to be the smartest person in your group. You don't want to be the most successful person in your group neither, because it will limit your growth, so to speak. Wow. So surrounding yourself around good people is very important. But I was born and raised in a small town called Alice, Texas, which is 2 hours south of San Antonio, about 40 minutes from Corpus Christi area. And I moved up here when I was 18 years old. I'm 47, so 19 years ago. Wow. And awesome. Time has flown by. I still feel like I'm in my 20s.
Dude, yeah, I can relate, man. That's cool. That's awesome. Wow. That's cool, man. And what would you say is the best thing about leading? Because I know that you're the owner of Media Digital Source, and you have a team of people. What's the best thing for you to be able to lead your team?
Well, as far as leadership is concerned, you have to be able to be adjustable, willing to pivot. Mind you, I've been an entrepreneur or business owner for 15 years, and I've had to evolve with the industry itself. I started off in print magazine publications, and I had two magazines, which one was more of the medical, which was MD Monthly, and the other one was Inside Magazine, which was a business entrepreneurship magazine.
Wow.
And then the digital world comes in, and social media comes in, and everything else. So, after 11 years of publishing that magazine, I had to make a pivot into the digital aspect. Hence, how Media Digital Source came into play. But it's a long story short, man. The thing is that transition is tough. Scalability is tough. And not only the evolution of changing industries. When I started my publication back in 2006, I was 31 years old. Mind you, all my employees were about the same age. Mm-hmm. Now I'm 47 years old, and all my employees stayed the same age. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's a different culture. There's a different generation. There's a different way of speaking. There's a different way of communicating, to where I don't believe in problems. I believe in challenges. There's challenges, but you have to evolve in understanding how they're going to receive how your leadership is going to be. Most people want to lead by being heard, but I think it's very important to understand how you're being received and everything that you're saying. As of right now, I'm concentrating exactly how to articulate everything I'm telling you and anybody else who listens, to where I'm not over their head, or I don't dumb it down too much, whatever the case is. Because again, I'm 47, man. I'm Generation X. I come from the analog world, right? We use a phone stuck to a wall. So you have to be a student of the game when it comes to entrepreneurship and leadership. You'll stunt your growth if you think you're an expert.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you on that, man. You can never, the saying goes is, once you stop growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah, true.
So totally relate with you there, man. That's wow. And it's definitely so amazing, right? How, definitely businesses has changed, right? The way that
Hmm.
people buy nowadays is totally different than it was even like 10 years ago, right?
True.
And then you have, these, big corporations that, they've been so successful all these years,
Hmm.
and either they chose to, you know, move on with the way that businesses run, or they try and stick to their ways and stick to their ways. I mean, these big companies, they've shut down, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, they shut
But
down. Hmm.
you also have older companies too that, like, now they're like even more successful, right? Because they've learned the game, right? And they're um they understand, right, about the way that people buy, right?
Yes.
um a lot of our followers, that that follow us, and of course, we're in the business of hiring and recruiting job seekers. So a lot of our
Mhm.
followers are job seekers. What's the best advice you could give to somebody who is a job seeker, that's looking to lead their own team, right? Who maybe is,
Mhm.
maybe they've been established for quite some time on their own, but they're looking to become in a management role. What would be your best advice for somebody like that?
And the best advice is being open to learning from the younger generation, not only your superiors, not only your seniors, but some of my best education are people that are 10 years younger than me, and taking their point of view as them being the newer age generation. Another advice is making sure that your communication skills are intact. And I say that because of technology and text messaging and chat rooms and social media, we seem to have lost a lot of the art of communication. Therefore, the ones who
Yeah,
know how to communicate best are going to naturally be heard to follow. And you have to be followed to be a leader, correct?
that's right.
There's a lot of, I want to be an influencer and have people follow me online. But if you're not communicating anything in the real world, how do you monetize your scalability within the office to become a department head, manager, or even a business owner? So communication, as cliche as it sounds, I think it's always going to be the best asset, the best value for anybody to know how to articulate. Secondly, um, emotional intelligence. What do I mean by that? It took me a while to understand what emotional intelligence was, how to manage your emotions and receive it, articulate it, and respond opposed to react. We live in a
Wow.
world of instant gratification. With instant gratification, we can become naturally very impatient, and with impatience
Hmm.
comes the mannerisms, the attitude, and everything else. So we need to increase the emotional intelligence by practicing with other people. Where they're with me, sometimes it's my 8-year-old daughter, or sometimes it's a 21-year-old straight out of college, or it's just making sure that that evolution of managing your emotions, and again, it goes back to how do you articulate stuff so people can receive it correctly. Because we're in a day and age of a very sensitive world right now, and people
Yeah.
are uh, can be very misunderstanding through technology. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not interested in sending every emoji out there with my text message so they can understand how I feel. I would rather communicate it in front of everybody and say, this is exactly my tone of voice. I understand where you're coming from and to make this work, you know? So, as far as leadership is concerned, anybody who's wanting to get into upper management or entrepreneurship, emotional intelligence, making sure that your communication skills there, being patient with yourself, and you know what? Consistency, man. I've been doing this for 15 years. Everywhere I go in San Antonio, people, if they don't know my name, they know that I'm the marketing advertising guy. You know,
Yeah.
but consistency takes time, right? And time
Hmm.
takes patience. I think entrepreneurship is overglorified throughout social media and the internet, not realizing you're not going to accomplish that in 2 years. You're going to
Hmm.
have to build a sweat equity of relationships, the grind, and everything else in order to earn that right of somebody investing in you or your services. So
Right.
entrepreneurship is tough, man. It's not easy, and it's not for the kind-hearted sometimes as well neither, because you have to make really tough decisions. And I wouldn't change it for the world, because once it comes to fruition and you're making a little bit of money, it's like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I did this. I did it. It's happening. Yeah.
And what's interesting about, what you're telling me is, and that's kind of, I guess, my next question too is, what is the greatest challenge that you faced when your team, started growing, right? And how did you overcome that? Because obviously as an entrepreneur, a business owner, you start up by yourself, but once you start having your own employees, it's a whole nother game,
True.
right? So
Yeah.
would you kind of share kind of like what was your greatest challenge and maybe how you overcame that?
And I think, well, thank you for asking this question, because I think most entrepreneurs or business owners will probably agree. When I talk to other business owners in different industries, not always my industry, there's a common theme of their biggest struggle is staff and employment, HR. Um, you know, I'm someone who graduated from high school and I didn't go to college. Uh, I have no higher education as far as any university, what have you. Uh, Most of my education came from my surrounding and making sure that I'm around the experts or people who know a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
So therefore, I continue asking questions. Even at 47, I'm always asking questions: who, what, when, where, how do I do it? Teach me. Do I need to pay you for it? How? Consult me, whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
But I know my strengths, which is communication, sales, presentations, business development. And for the longest time, I was thinking that I can run operations, and operation is the HR side.
Mhm.
It's the scalability side, growing through thresholds. And it took me a while to realize that I actually suck at that, man. And that's not my
Wow.
forte, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And my ego told me that I could do it, but in reality, I wasn't experienced in that department. So I eventually replaced myself within the company as a CEO and hired somebody else to run operations, who
Wow.
is who went to college for that, who worked for Fortune 500 companies and everything else. And I was able and fortunate enough to hire her, and she runs the business. And I'm thinking, man, I should have did this 10 years ago, you
Dang.
know,
Wow.
because I'm probably not the only business owner slash business developer, salesperson out there. There's tons of us, but having to replace yourself and delegate is really tough because it involves trust. At the same
Oh
time,
yeah.
you have to let go, and letting go has a lot of ego to that, to say, hey, I don't want that position anymore. But I had to realize in a lot of situations, and I don't want to use the word life work balance, but I have a daughter, and I found myself being very aggravated sometimes in her presence. This is not cool. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
So therefore, not that what I do is easy. I'm still busy as hell, but I love being this type of busy, opposed to
Yeah.
the HR busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Wow.
so that's probably the biggest challenge, is going to be the HR staffing side, employee side, finding the right fit, and then the scalability, growing through thresholds. It's never ending, to be honest with you. You're hiring people, they're in their 20s with a whole different age group of mannerisms and communication. And, they may be turnover and then have to retrain again and hire somebody. I do believe in the 90-day rule of being employed, because the irony is that after somebody's employed for 90 days, you really see who they are. I
Yeah.
don't care
Yeah.
how
That's
well the
true.
resume looks. I don't care how well they interview. Something about that 90-day threshold. It's like, oh, okay, what changed? So you have to rake through all the
Yeah.
uh the ones who fall short and the ones who are leaders and what have you. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad you shared that because it really shows, your ability to, really stay true to yourself. And I really feel like, entrepreneurs and business owners, you got to really understand
Mhm.
like we can't do it all, right?
No.
Like there's that, like there's no purpose for everybody, right? And
Mhm.
we're all not made to be janitors, and we're all not made to be CEOs, right? So
Yes.
we have to understand our strengths and weaknesses, and that's awesome that you shared that because it really shows your maturity, right, to being an entrepreneur and realizing that, hey, if I want to get to the next level, I need to be able to let this go, right?
Yeah.
And even like in life, I feel like too, like sometimes this is like not even speaking, being a CEO or entrepreneur. I feel like in life sometimes like we have to realize like, man, this is like we have to let this go. That's something that's holding us back, right? Like, so that's really cool. My next question is who's your biggest influence in your life? It could be either now or maybe somebody in the past.
Oh, my father passed away 2 years ago. He was married to my mom for 60 years. I'm the youngest
so
of
nice.
6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl. And I think of my dad often because there's a lot of things that I do that my dad did. My dad was a salesman.
Wow.
He didn't train me how to be a salesman. He didn't teach me how to be a salesman, but he got me involved and brought me around his surroundings. So maybe through osmosis, I picked up how to shake a hand. Maybe through that environment, I knew how to smile to somebody and say hello. So because he gave me that special attention and brought me into his environment, it planted all the seeds I needed to and the tools I needed to be where I'm at right now. I mean, that's business, right? And then also personal. I mean, being married for 60 years, that's inspiring, man. You don't hear that much, personally. He was a God-fearing man, faith-driven, I don't think I could ever fill his shoes, but I am trying my best. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Man.
That's a blessing for sure.
Yeah.
I guess the last question I have is, how has media digital source impacted you as a leader? And, just kind of, from the beginning to up until now, like how has it impacted you now, since you've been doing this for a long time?
Media digital source has been a great platform to transition to. It's digital is not going anywhere. It's a platform that's going to evolve. I feel strongly about it because when you come from traditional media, prior to print, I was in television and I was in radio. Traditional media is radio, television, print, and billboard, which all traditional media, there's still value in it. But when you have digital marketing, it's all of them encompassing in one. There's audio, there's video, there's transcripts, there's content, there's everything there's displays, there's everything you can do on digital to where I feel confident enough to where digital is a platform that's going to be around for a long time. At the same time, digital put me out of business. And I mean, at 42 years old, I was like, how am I going to learn this product that most 25-year-olds know at my age, 5 years ago? And I really had to re-educate myself. I said, okay, I know my strengths is not analytics. I know my strengths is not being behind a computer and doing design and pushing out ads. So what I did was I went to conferences, I watched podcasts, I watched a lot of YouTube on what digital marketing is. I figured if I learned the product knowledge enough and grow through the evolution of digital on what's up to date, that I can present it and hire people a lot smarter than me to do the procurement, So that solution really, really worked. We're about 21 employees. We generate a couple $1 million a year as a small business. And, I'm looking forward to the next couple of years. I mean, even with the pandemic and everything else, we're working smarter. It's actually helped us, not hurt us. At the same time, with the blessings come the responsibility, man. I mean, digital is so transparent that it's 100% trackable, right? So therefore, our clients are more keen to understand what's working and what isn't working, opposed to traditional media. When I sold print, like, here's your full page ad for the next 30 days. They were excited about it, and that was it.
Oh yeah.
Even though I've alleviated the print costs, which was a lot of my overhead back then, we have the emotional, the customer service management side, because there's more of a communication throughout the month when it comes to it. So I mean, you gotta love what you're doing. You cannot go into it thinking financially I want to meet this goal and that's it. Yet it takes time, you know. And I can truly appreciate my 22 years of marketing and advertising, my 15 years on my own, that my most important asset and my biggest worth is my sweat equity of relationships. Every
Oh yeah.
client that transitioned from print and said, we'll give you a shot in digital because we want to support you, that was huge for me. That was
Man.
huge, you know,
Wow.
because not everybody does that. Nobody, they'll go on to somebody. There's tons of me out there, you know.
Sure.
But that's what equity of relationships, and I can attest that back to my father and how to shake a hand and smile and say hello. That's really it's come to fruition.
That's why I like this. I like what you're sharing, because it reminds me of that saying that goes, your net worth is your network, right?
Yeah.
Or is it backwards?
It's backwards.
Is your
Yes.
yeah.
Network is
Your network is your net worth, right?
Yeah.
And also too, you know, people buy because they like you as a person, right? People normally don't buy, products and services because they like the product or service. Most of the times it's because, there's somebody that has, really influenced them. And you've been that for years, and people trust you. So they're gonna do whatever you're gonna do. Hey, I want what Eliot's got, right? Like, so that just shows your character and of who you are, and just the type of leader that you are. So
thank you.
Definitely awesome. Any last words you have, Eliot? We just have a couple more minutes. Anything you want to share?
I think people in this day and age, what's most importantly outside of business, and even they can look at it as business or personal, whatever the case is, we just need to be patient with each other. Every day I'm working on myself. I think there's a trilogy, which is mind, body, and health, mentally and physically and health wise, mind, body, and spirit, I should say. Faith, I think there's a true balance that needs to be happening. And I think that balance is going to bring the enjoyment that you want in life. I don't believe in the pursuit of happiness. I believe happiness is a choice. You can choose to be happy. You can just choose to be happy. And that goes back to emotional intelligence, understanding where you're at right now, the air you're breathing. And it's real, man. What's going on in the world and how we adjust and how we manage ourselves can be very important and contribute to the happiness that we have. And everybody else around us will be happy as well too. So it's not always about business, man. It's, we got to live for the moment right now.
That's right, man. That's awesome. I have definitely, I'm going to record, obviously I'm recording this video, but I'm going to listen to this recording over and over and write a ton of notes, because you've shared so many nuggets. We definitely got to, get some lunch sometime, man. It'd be cool to be able to pick your brain, man. It'd be cool.
I love it,
man. I appreciate you, Eliot. This is the end of our show. I normally don't like to go beyond 25 minutes. So we're right at the mark, man. So appreciate you, Eliot, and definitely keep in touch. And as soon as I'm done editing this video, I will, of course, post it on our YouTube.
I can't wait to. I can't. I'll share it out there too. So, let's get it. Let's make it happen, brother. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care, bud. Bye-bye.